The heavens have opened up, angels are singing, let's rejoice. Camping World is going out of business. They will no longer exist within the next 5 to 7 years based on what has happened over the last 3 days. Or will they? Welcome to HB RV Lifestyle, the podcast. I'm the host, John Levingston, aka the Honey Badger, here to give it to you straight and transparent about the RV business, as well as some other things. And no offense to anyone that does a video on this from the RV corporate side. So any of the corporate RV dealership YouTubers or their friends, it's hard to give a full transparent view of this because a lot of the influencers don't like Camping World. Now, I personally have worked for Camping World in the prior years. Didn't work for them long, but I was actually a part of the organization for a little while. So I kind of have an understanding of a little bit of the ins and outs. I also have an understanding compared to others of where this is really going and how it's going to get there. Okay. So first off, if you don't know, Marcus Lemonis is stepping down from Camping World. He's no longer going to be a part of it. Now, that's going to have some positive impact on that company, but it's also going to have a severe negative impact that will possibly put them out of business within the next decade. At least how we see it now. And I'll explain that a little bit later because you're going to want to pay attention to the whole video, because if you skip around, I know it's going to be a long episode, guys. It will be. But if you skip around, you're not going to have any clue what I'm talking about because there's going to be a lot of context inside of this. So if you skip around, you're going to probably more than likely be very confused. Now, let's start with the positives, okay? With Marcus Lemonis stepping down, it's going to give what I call less of the mama drama. You know, I always used to say that Marcus changes his mind like mom and dads change baby diapers. It's like hourly and daily about things. So I remember back in 2022, I was working at the Vacaville store. And I was one of the used managers throughout the country, okay? Again, I didn't work for them very long, but I used to deal with a lot of the used inventory. And what we would do is the GM, his name was Phil, and we had a sales manager named Eddie. I think Eddie's the GM now of the store, he's awesome dude. The reality is when we get a piece in that was a wholesale piece, we just wholesale it to like a dealer that, you know, deals with that $2,000, $3,000, $2,500 stuff. And this is the middle of the pandemic. And one day Marcus has this brilliant idea. We're going to have a lineup of RVs that are going to be cheap, and we're not going to fix everything on them. We're just going to sell them as is with the minimum inspection. We're going to give people a list of what doesn't work, and I'm tired of losing money to this, right? That lasted about a week. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but it lasted about a week, okay? It didn't last very long. So in all reality, that kind of thing is really going to be helpful. The other thing that's going to be helpful is when I was working on the factory side, there's a corporate ladder that Camping World likes to stick to. It's like basically a standard operating procedure of how a manufacturer gets on a Camping World lot. Now, I'm not going to give away all the secrets because that's not cool. But what I will tell you is you're not supposed to just pick up the phone and call the top guy. Okay. It's supposed to go through a chain of command where you have buy-in from the store level to the regional level to the inventory guy to the VP, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Then it gets to the top three guys at the top of the ladder and they make the decision. Okay. But there's got to be buy-in all the way up the ladder. Well, what would happen is a lot of GMs, a lot of presidents of companies, a lot of sales managers that knew Marcus in the heyday of when Gander and all that stuff really started, they just call Marcus immediately and throw a monkey wrench in a bunch of crap, right? So having Marcus out of Camping World will actually be beneficial from a decision-making standpoint. Okay. But where it's going to impact them is in the relationships with the investors and the banks. Okay. Now I understand the person that's taking over has been around a long time and, been under been under the wing of Lemonis and et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to get all that. They're going to sell the holy crap out of this guy. Okay. But the reality is that Marcus built Camping World in a style where it was too big to fail. Well, now what's going to occur with all the losses that Camping World has taken over the last couple of years, just like every other dealership and every other manufacturer has. If you don't believe me, go look at a report. Nobody has really made any kind of real actual net profit. Not revenue, not gross profit, but net profit. Nobody's really made a lot of net profit over the last couple of years. Okay, that being said, now you're at a point where since Marcus doesn't have that relationship inside Camping World, like basically an old blue blood, there's going to be a certain point in time where those relationships, if Camping World struggles again in 2026, they may not be bailed out. And they might be forced to close more stores than what already was planned out. So I have some insiders that actually have told me that Camping World plans on closing 35 to 36 stores over the next 24 months. Now, these are redundant stores. It's not like, oh, well, they're going out of business type of thing. No, these are redundant stores they should have never bought. Or now that they bought a bigger, badder store inside a market, they no longer need the second store. Give me an example. There's going to be some closures in Northern California because you have 8 Camping Worlds within an hour and a half drive of each other in Northern California, and pretty much all of them carry around the same product. So that Sacramento market, or that Sacramento BTA, as a lot of guys would put it on the factory side, is just completely oversaturated with Camping World. So the reality is they could keep a store like Vacaville, that's a large store, very successful store, does really good job overall, and close some of the stores that we'll say are less likely to succeed. I'm not going to name names, but we're just going to say that, as far as I can tell, they're going to close probably 36 to 40 stores over the next 24 months just to get rid of the redundancies, right? Get rid of some of the markets that maybe they shouldn't have bought into. But that being said, if they struggle like they did last year and like they've been doing this year, we're going to look at a really, really deep dive into how many stores, how many employees are going to have to be laid off. And then you got to look on the flip side of things. You now have Funtown RV, General RV, Campers Inn, okay, that are getting bigger and stronger, and they could start buying out a lot of these Camping World locations that are not doing well and flip them into their own store. So I think what we're going to see is, I think Camping World will shrink. I don't think it's going to be the Walmart of the RV industry anymore. Those days are going to be done. And I was telling my buddy this. I told 5 factory guys this because they're like, what are we going to do? And I go, you're going to do nothing. Hang out and chill. Because all the guys that got bought out by Blue Compass and bought out by Camping World and other corporate entities, they're coming back. And I said, what's going to happen is small mom and pop shops are doing it the right way right now, where they're using low overhead, so that way they can sell units for cheaper. So that way you don't have to feel like you have to go to a big dealer to get a good deal. Okay. There's a location, I'm not going to say who it is because that's not fair to that person, that pretty much in Arizona has decided to go to 2 salespeople, 1 manager that does both finance and the desk, 1 service writer and manager, and 10 technicians. That's it, 14 employees. And then he's told his spouse and his family members, they're going to help him keep the books up. And he cut his overhead, especially his employee overhead, by 65%. Ever since he did that, he's been able to cut down his pricing, and all of a sudden, the numbers go up. So while bigger corporate stores are going to struggle in 2026, because number one, you guys aren't believing anything on the internet anymore that these guys say at the corporate level, especially the influencers. And then at the same time, we're getting to a point in time where people are realizing that you don't have to go shop a big dealer to get a good price. Their buying power might be a little bit better than a small mom and pop shop. You're absolutely right. But their overhead is way higher, and they have to sell units for more money and more profit per deal than a small mom and pop shop do. Fact of life. Okay. In all reality of things, and this is where things are going to get complicated. Okay. Marcus had a way of being bailed. Marcus got bailed out twice by Thor. That's because of the relationship he had with Bob Martin. That's because of the relationship he had with the investors. Okay. Now, I want you to remember something I said. Now, a couple of years ago, we're going to bring up Don Clark again. Okay. So, a couple of years ago, right before Don Clark was going through all the frame failure, frame flex stuff, and nobody wanted to admit there was frame failure, frame flex. And, now it's this big to do. And, we're on a course correction of that, obviously. Okay. I want to make sure that's out there. We're on a course correction of it. Don Clark cashed out a ton of Winnebago stock over a 3-year period. Now, if you go look at the stock of most of these publicly traded RV companies, they're severely down. So Marcus is cashing out and leaving his, he can't cash out everything, but he's cashing out. What do you think is going to happen to Camping World stock as soon as he cashes out? What do you think is going to happen to consumer employee confidence, factory confidence? It's no offense to this guy, but Marcus had a way of his relationships with the different heads of the factory. Jeff Reynolds over at Keystone, Bob Martin over at Thor. God bless him, God rest his soul, loved him to death. Pete Legal before his passing. I'm pretty sure that him and Doug Getter have a pretty good relationship. You also got to look at, even though Don Clark did not have Grand Design product on any of those lots of Camping World, they did have Winnebago products. So you got to think that Don Clark has had a relationship. Those relationships are so important when it comes to the factory dealer initiative that we always used to say, when I worked on the factory side, we're looking for a good partner. How do we know that this person's going to be a good partner? We know what happens when companies change CEOs. Things seem okay at first, but then once you start getting some progressive idea, things go to hell. I'm going to give you an example of a progressive idea that people had in the RV industry. You had car guys who own car dealerships, go buy RV dealerships and tell me, and have told everybody for years, oh, we can do it way better than you. Let me show you. And then they get in and they're out in 4 years. They either sold or closed doors. Look at Barber RV, the place I used to work for. The owner, the actual real owner's name was John Kirby. Now, I'm not going to name the person that actually was running or was the managing partner of the car dealerships and Barber RV. But what I will say is JS left it hands off for about 2 years. And Barber RV was continuing to become profitable and grew and grew and grew. And then the managing partner was looking at the checks that the managers were making, including the service manager, the parts manager, me, the GM, the general sales manager, and the sales manager. And at the end of the day, he got rid of everybody because he thought he could do it with cheaper talent. Is Barber RV in business still? No, they failed during the pandemic. They failed when everything in their mama was selling and making money. Okay, so we don't know where this is going to go or how this is going to play out. Okay, it's the same thing And it's the same thing with Blue Compass. I mean, we don't know what Blue Compass is going to do. They change their minds like you change baby diapers as well. Managers change hands, regional guys always change hands. It's just a mixed bag of nuts everywhere. So the reality is while the corporate guys are trying to sort out their pecking order and sort out what they're going to do, you have small mom and pop dealerships that have learned how to use AI, have learned to shrink out the dinosaurs that don't want to learn how to use a phone and actually communicate by email, communicate by text, communicate a video to somebody. Those dinosaurs are leaving the earth right now, and not literally, but metaphorically. And we're heading towards a system where, like here at the dealership I work at, most of the deals are done over the phone, done over text messaging, done over social media inboxing, done through direct message, done through comment section in the Facebook and Instagram and YouTube videos. This is no longer, well, let me go walk down. We're going to go walk and shop for a RV today. That's not how it works. Hell, I've seen a spike in how many people watch a lot of my videos that aren't walkthroughs. They don't come to me for walkthrough videos. They come through me through knowledge of RV financing things. Those videos have spiked over 6 months. I mean, I'm like, my walkthrough videos are worthless. I mean, I post them because we need them for the website. But outside of that, it's like, I could just sit here twice a week, talk about the industry, talk about something deep dive wise, and more people are more interested in that because pretty much people have figured out what the pecking order of the manufacturers is. You know, unless you want to believe the hype about some company thinking they're perfect and that don't leak, get out of town. You know, you don't buy a Grand Design fifth wheel right now without asking about the frames. If you don't believe me, you should see half the damn people that I get comments from in my direct messages and my emails saying, hey, we went to a Grand Design Momentum, a 2026, and the salesperson can't even answer a direct question about a frame. So they moved on and actually bought actual Brinkley fifth wheel toy hauler because the guy who actually was selling the Brinkley knew everything about the frame. And I was like, they thought I was going to be mad at them. Oh, I know you're not a fan of Brinkley. I'm like, dude, I'm a total fan of their fifth wheel toy haulers. I'm not a fan of the person that is the face of their company. I think he's demonstrative and a hot air balloon. But, you know, the fifth wheel toy hauler product is actually really good, whether it leaks or not. Leaks can be fixed. That's why, you know, that's what people don't realize when I talk about manufacturers. The reason why my wrath goes towards certain manufacturers is when they open their mouth and say something that's absolutely stupid, calling people names in their car, trying to get a RV influencer like Josh the RV Nerd to tell people that less than 0.5% of Grand Design frames fail. Yeah, and Josh, if you're watching, I'll never let you go for that because you should have never done that. You should have kept your mouth shut about it. But that's Monday morning quarterbacking. Okay. But the reality is that once you go down that path, you're going to have my wrath because I'm not stupid and I don't want people to be stupid. What I don't want is I want less people on Liz Amazing's channel and more people just talking in the Reddit groups and everything else. Hey, yeah, you know, Grand Design Momentum, they buffed out the frame, and this is how they explain what they did different with their frame, and that's why we bought it. We know that there are going to be issues because no RV is perfect. I want to hear more of that. That there were small little problems, small little things. There's always small little things that need to be done. Hey, I'm glad I have a toolkit and a sense of humor. I want to hear that. I don't want to hear that a frame is snapped. I don't want to hear that somebody's coach is flooded because of an experimental automotive seal because they want to make their coach look better. I don't want to hear that crap. I want to hear, hey, you know, we understood that our seal on our Brinkley was going to, you know, we had to keep an eye on it because it's going to leak. But you know what? We love the fact that it's got a 17-foot garage. Yeah, we had a bunch of little things go wrong. They post about the little things that went wrong. and there's nobody slamming down their throat that things are so bad. Oh, you're just a liar. Oh, you're just it. Oh, you're so full of crap. Oh, you're a blowhard. I'm sick of it. If you want to know why look, for Coachman Catalina, which the person ahead that was ahead of Coachman Catalina was actually is Doug Getter's family member, President CEO of Forest River. You want to know the feud him and I had behind the scenes? Him calling my former employer, threatening him to get rid of me type shit? Come on, man. Because the minute they did that, what did I do? I took a deeper dive into Coachman Catalina and Coachman Freedom Express and Coachman Apex, and I absolutely went, you wanna get me to stop talking about your recalls? I doubled and tripled down. Now what happens? Nobody calls. Nobody says anything. Now, by the way, that's an assumption. I want to make sure that's clear. That was an assumption because the way my former employer treated me, it was as if his best friend at Forest River had called and threatened him. I don't have any evidence of that. Okay, I want to make that clear. I don't have any evidence of that whatsoever. But at the end of the day, as soon as I got that, what do you think I did? I doubled and tripled down on, okay, Coachman Catalina this week has 7 recalls. What happens as soon as people go, all right, we better back off. It's not like he's not telling the truth. He actually is telling the truth. And they let me do what I do best, which is talk about the industry from a middle ground perspective. Voila. Everybody's happy. There's always one, excuse my language, there's always one jackass that thinks that what I do is no good for the industry. One jackass. That's it. Everybody else leaves me alone, lets me do my thing. They'll every once in a while contact my guys and say, hey, we didn't really like the way he said this. Can we talk to him? I'll talk to him. I'm not going to tell you what manufacturer, but one manufacturer was not happy that I put them at the bottom 5 of fifth wheel toy haulers in 2024. Not happy. Not happy I did it 2 years in a row. Like pissed. Because they felt they had the best product out there and they were doing all this innovative crap. And I'm like, well, and I had a 2-hour conversation with a factory representative on that side, high up factory representative on that side. And you know what they said? You know what I told them? I said, well, go through your innovations with me. And they did. I'm like, Tiffin's already done that. Oh, by the way, Grand Design's already done that. Oh, by the way, one of your people in-house under your umbrella has already done that. It's just like Rockwood and Flagstaff right now touting that they did this spray and foam insulation on their front cap. And it's so innovative and they're the first to do it. Bullshit. First off, I don't even sell the product, but I know the product front and back. And I know damn well that Palomino, Columbus, and a couple other brands under the Forest River umbrella were already doing that back in 2019, 20, 21, and 22. There's no innovations this year that aren't different that somebody else hasn't already done. You're just playing catch up. That's not to say Forest River, Flagstaff, and Rockwood is not a good product. It is a good product. But at the end of the day, don't BS people to death with this thought process that people are stupid. That's all I have to say about it, really. See you next time.